Oh, the early 2000s, a simpler time, a time when LEGO said, yes, we know children love building things, but what if instead they didn't? And thus, LEGO Drome Racers was born. This is a game based on futuristic racing, missile warfare, and the kind of car customization where you technically have choices, but really you're just choosing between 3 different flavors of total disappointment. So welcome to the Worst Racing Games, the internet series where you guys suggest different racing games that you think are terrible, and then I play them, review them, and rank them. Last week we travelled back in time to the PS1 to play 007 Racing, which honestly wasn't the worst racing game ever, it was kind of fun. But anyway, we are back on the PlayStation 2 this week with Lego Drome Racers. So today we're going to go through the world of drone racers where cars can float, physics fear commitment, and for some reason the villain is named Dromulus, which sounds less like a racing mastermind and more like a Power Rangers villain that somehow got rejected. So before we jump into the gameplay, let's just look at a little bit of history about how this game even came to be. So back in the late 90s and early 2000s, LEGO was experimenting quite a lot. They already had LEGO Racers 1 and 2, fan favourites that were full of charm and creative brick-by-brick car construction, which one day we will look at on the channel because I've really been meaning to get to them. But that wasn't enough. LEGO saw the success of their Racers toy line, these weird, ultra-specific, almost aggressively non-brick cars, and thought, yeah, let's make a game out of those. Kids love building cars that can only be one thing. So they handed the keys to Attention to Detail, the same developers behind Roll Cage, which was a racing game best described as what if Hot Wheels sets had a total death wish. It's important to note that Attention to Detail were the primary developers behind LEGO Racers 2 as well, so they'd already been working with the LEGO brand, and theoretically they got everything right in 2, so that should have continued into Drome Racers? Question mark? So Attention to Detail said, cool, but what if the cars are LEGO, except they don't really act like LEGO, and instead of goofy kart-style antics, we go full futuristic race war. And LEGO just kinda went, yeah, sure, why not, whatever, we don't care. So with the groundwork set, let's go over the slightly strange lore of Drone Racers. So in the distant futuristic year of 2015, the world has apparently given up on things like politics, economics, and infrastructure because everyone's attention is now solely focused on the Drome, a giant multi-biome racing dome run by a man named Dromulus, who I guess sits upon a chrome throne feeding on the tears of the rookie drivers that have been lost to the Drome. He decides where and when races happen. Apparently racers get like 0 input, no schedule, no routes, just hey, you're racing in the frozen mountains now, so good luck with that. It's the racing equivalent of being kidnapped and dropped into a new ecosystem like a very confused deer. But hey, as far as premises go, we've certainly had worse. I think it's quite an interesting setup that allows the game to give you lots of different environments to race through. In theory. Now before we go any further, if you're a fan of racing games, or in some cases terrible racing games, then why not hit that subscribe button and tap the bell for notifications to stay up to date with the Worst Racing Games series. And whilst you're at it, if you want to support the channel or this series any further, then please check out my Patreon using the link in the description below. Over on my Patreon you'll find cool stuff, like early access to videos, and you can get your name in the credits of every single upload. I'd greatly appreciate it. Anyway, that's enough trying to sell myself to you. Let's go back to Drone Racers and talk about the career mode, because that's the meat and potatoes of the game. So career mode is built around something called MCR. And no, for you emos like myself out there, that's not My Chemical Romance, that is in fact multi-challenge races. That sounds complex, but in practice it's basically LEGO saying, what if a race was actually just a couple of races duct taped together? Each MCR starts with a drag race, because nothing screams LEGO like tuning a dragster, revving too hard, and then blowing up. Drag races are short and require a weirdly high amount of precision, and these determine your starting position for the first race in the cup. Which sounds fair, until you realise the gear shifting sensitivity is so tight, you could sneeze and accidentally go from first to nuking your car. Genuinely, the amount of time it took me to nail this was way too long, almost embarrassingly too long, which might be a skill issue, but still, not ideal. Anyway, then the actual races begin, and here's the twist. Your start time depends on your total time from previous races, obviously excluding the first one, which is the drag. So if you're 4 seconds ahead overall, you'll start the next race 4 seconds early. It's like Mario Kart if Mario said, nah, you're good, go ahead, I'll catch up. It's certainly a unique way of doing things. I want to say clever, but I don't think that would be the right word. Anyway, the AI, for the most part, somehow finds a way to rubber band itself back up to near you anyway, like a clingy ex, so that head start doesn't really matter too much anyway. Alright, so the handling. Let's talk about it. The handling in Drome Racers feels like the game was coded by two completely different teams who never met each other and communicated exclusively through faxes with lots of typos. There are two types of cars, road cars and off-road cars. Now, logic dictates road cars are good on road, and off-road cars are good on off-road. But Drome Racers takes that logic and firmly rejects it. Road cars handle like they're made of soap, butter, and some weirdly bad intentions. They understeer, oversteer, fishtail, and occasionally attempt to drift sideways into walls like they're trying to escape the drome. Even slow corners feel like you're trying to steer a shopping cart with one bad wheel at least 150 miles per hour. Meanwhile, the off-road cars, which is the more enjoyable part of the game because of this, handle perfectly. They're tight and responsive. They handle like the developers accidentally swapped the physics files between the road and off-road, and then just went, yeah, sure. And then there's the floatiness. Everything floats. You hit a jump, you float. You nudge a wall, you hover. Another car hits you, well, off the space for you. So the game also has some weapons. So Drome Racers channels its roll cage roots with a selection of weapons that range from kind of annoying to why would you do this to me? There are homing missiles that never miss, forward shots that pretty much always miss, and dropped items that exist solely to ruin someone's day, if they actually ever land on it. Using weapons is fun, to be fair. Dodging weapons is, well, not so fun. In fact, barely even possible. But the homing missiles, nope, there's no counterplay, there's no shield, no dodge. Just an audio cue, a brief moment of like a few seconds of reflection, and then you just spin out, or flip. One particularly hilarious flaw in my opinion is when you hit another driver with a missile, their spinning carcass will often just hit directly into you, meaning you get punished for just playing the game and being successful in doing so, which seems balanced. Now I know you're thinking, well, Kledge, this is a Lego racing game, so at least I can build my own dream car. And the game says, no, you can pick tyre type A, B, or C. And that's about as much creativity as you get. You can pick one set of tyres, one of a handful of chassis, and one of a few body shells. And that's kind of it. So you basically just make small, medium, or big car, and that's the entire game. It's like having a giant Lego bucket but only being allowed to build the spaceship on the box because all the pieces are hyper-specialized and shaped like dragon wings. Make that make sense. Upgrades exist and they're universal. You buy a turbo upgrade, every car gets turbo. You upgrade the engine, well congratulations, your entire garage has now been blessed with that engine upgrade. It's convenient but also hilariously unrealistic. Imagine tuning one car and suddenly all the other cars in your garage just get better. As if by magic. However, I have been moaning a little bit, and it's not all bad with Drome Racers. There's parts of it I actually enjoyed. One thing the game absolutely nails is the cars. These things look really good. If you owned the real Lego sets, seeing them in motion was like watching your childhood fantasies come to life at like 150 miles per hour, which is just awesome. The environments are surprisingly gorgeous. There's really nice hills, dusty deserts, snowy mountains, futuristic cities which are slightly less interesting, but they all look sharp and surprisingly detailed. And there's even good particle effects. Like, I'm genuinely really surprised with how good this game looks, considering how old it is. There's even a tornado on one track that looks so good you'll wonder why the rest of the game doesn't get this level of love. Even though if the tornado itself is somewhat frustrating to get around because it throws you around, like it's taking you out of Kansas. But then there are the humans in your garage. These poor souls look like they escaped from a PS1 cutscene and wandered into a PS2 game looking for some help. Their animations are stiff, their faces are blank, and their lip syncing is just non-existent. It's like the developers ran out of budget and then just put in some wax museum figures and went, yeah, well, hopefully no one notices. They also have really funny names, so your engineer is called Chicane, and what's her middle name? Through Goes Hamilton. And then there's also the guy that you have to go to save your data, and he's just called Slot. I have no further words for that one, just Slot. The sound design in Drome Racers is, well, perfectly adequate. Engines roar, tyres screech, weapons fly past, explosions go boom. All the boxes are checked. The soundtrack mixes 2000s cheese metal with surprisingly decent electro-orchestral tracks. Some songs slap, some songs politely tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, don't forget me, I also exist. It's not exactly iconic, but in my opinion, it at least does the job. Now in terms of critical response, the PlayStation 2 version of Drome Racers, which by the way released in November 2002, holds a 57 out of 100 on Metacritic. The other main console versions of the game, which as far as I can tell are pretty much all the same, the GameCube version holds a 54, the PC version holds a 65, and the Xbox version, if it ever released, didn't get enough critical responses to get a score anyway. There was an alternative Game Boy Advance port which ironically ended up being the highest scorer at 73, but obviously is not the same game. Anyway, the game also has a user score on the PS2 port, and that is sadly a lot lower with a 3 out of 10. So, people do not remember this game fondly, it would seem. Anyway, the game would go on to sell just over 100,000 units on the PS2, and these figures are from VG charts. Something else that I always find very interesting is finding out roughly how much the game is worth in today's market. So, for a complete copy of the PS2 version of Drome Racers, at least here in PAL regions, it's going to cost you about £12, which is actually a little bit more than I was expecting. But if you're after just the disc, then you only have to spend about £2. But anyway, let's rank the game. So yeah, let's throw Drome Racers into our worst racing games tier list. Now to be honest, I actually really enjoyed parts of this game. The off-road sections when you're in the right car go really well. I mean, that is probably because the handling is so unrealistically tight, it just makes it so easy. But it is still kind of fun. The environments look really nice, the cars themselves look really good. There's just a lot of issues with the physics and the handling on the road sections, as well as having a lack of balance for the weapons. So for me, Drome Racers is going to sit alongside where 007 Racing went last week, in the meh tier. I nearly did put it in actually not that bad, but there were several moments where my car ended up doing cartwheels, and there's also the hover pickup, which just completely ruins the flow of the game. So there was no way I could justifiably put it in the actually not that bad tier, because it would just simply be a lie. So what is the legacy of Lego Drome Racers? Well, it's a weird, messy, ambitious game that tried to be roll cage with Lego branding, and kind of succeeded whilst also spinning into a pile of questionable physics. It looks great, it sounds alright, it has some ideas, some brilliant, some baffling, but it absolutely captures the spirit of those bizarre specialised Lego Racers sets. But man, the handling, it's just the handling. Drome Racers isn't a forgotten classic, but it's not a disaster either. It's this weird time capsule from when Lego was still figuring out what a Lego game should be. And honestly, I think that kind of makes it very special. In my opinion, it stands out, it's memorable, but it's flawed, whilst fun, whilst frustrating. It's Lego without the bricks. And so that takes us to the end of our look at Drome Racers for the PS2. So let me know in the comments down below. Did you play this one back when it released? Did you play it afterwards? Share your thoughts on the game and if you think it should be ranked any differently. And as always, if you have a game that you'd like to see on this series, put it in the comments and I'll put it in the worst racing game wheel. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe and tap the bell for notifications to stay up to date with my future uploads. A massive shout out to my Patreon subscribers for the continued support, and all I really have left to say is thanks and bye bye.